Hello, I'm Nan Simonsen. I'm a nationally board certified health and wellness coach, and I'm always on a venture. And I'm on a venture today because I was listening to a couple of people I admired tremendously, Rich Roll and in the plant-based world, and someone who's not in the plant-based world who I do admire, um, Andrew Huberman for his knowledge in brain health. He is a Stanford um, professor and scientist on neurobiology and ophthalmology because the eyes are, as he says, often part of the brain. And I heard them talk about stress and the damage that stress has on our physiology. And then they said they began talking about the value of releasing and replacing, and then they went on to something else. Well, that's all I needed to do. I stopped my bike. I was on my bike. That's where I get a lot of my learning done. And I simply spoke into my phone, releasing and replacing, so that I would look it up later. And I did. And I thought, this is a good subject. And I've got notes and I'm just going to go through the notes with you. And I know that with this brief introduction to the subject, you may not be able to make profound changes, but just being aware of your options as it relates to this stress management tool can make a big difference. Um, so here we go. So releasing and replacing is a powerful tool for stress management, and it breaks down to this. Releasing and replacing represents a two-part strategy aimed at improving emotional and mental well-being by actively letting go of harmful thoughts, behaviors, and emotions, which is the releasing part, and intentionally adopting healthier, more supportive alternatives, which is the replacing. And here's the first part of it we'll look at, which is releasing. We'll look at replacing. But first of all, let's talk about why it's important to manage stress. In just a couple of sentences, I'll say simply that stress is not just about what happens to us, it's about how we respond. Most of us carry stress without realizing it, and without realizing how much it's affecting not only our health, but our relationships and our focus. I know when I worked with Dr. Goldner on her goodbye autoimmune, goodbye lupus protocol, her one of her most repeated instructions to us was to look at our mindset and catch ourselves when we're inputting. And then she gave us a number of things to watch for. And part of this you'll hear today. These negative uh, thoughts, feelings, physical expressions, because we can't, as she said, we can do everything right with our diet. We can work on our exercise. We can take enough water and omega-3s. But unless we fix this part, some people, many people can't heal. So this is important. And so what stress-inducing patterns are they talking about? Is the part of this? Well, it's habits and emotions like negative self-talk. And you just may want to grab a piece of paper and a pencil. You can watch this again, but it might be helpful to just take a couple of notes. So, in releasing, again, the habits and emotions that are most stress inducing include negative self talk, unrealistic expectations or perfectionism, tension held in our body like clenched jaws, tight shoulders, abdominal distress. Some people feel everything in their gut. Resentment, anger, or anxiety, and overcommitment, people pleasing behaviors. What are some of the most common releasing practices? They include deep breathing or progressive muscle relaxation. They include journaling and expressive writing. You're going to hear so much of this and think, boy, this is the same answer to so many other things we've looked at. But yeah, it is. It comes down to understanding that our body can only take so much stress to to keep us in that parasympathetic, that rest and digest mode, as well as in the sympathetic system, which isn't in sympathy with us. It is the sympathetic of the our parasympathetic system. That part of it is the part that keeps us in fight or flight mode, and we don't digest. Our body shifts us to a be ready for an attack mode, which means a lot of things that keep us healthy in terms of bodily functions freeze. They tighten up. Everything stops except for what it would take to put on a burst of speed or a be strong and agile. Um, and some people live with that all the time. I have a confession. I always thought I was rather mellow and chilled. I realize that there are a lot of things that go through my mind, and I'm speaking to myself with this, that go through my mind that even if I don't notice, cause me to physically respond, have a negative effect on me, and some things that I can hold on to until I stop and replace those thoughts or journal them or meditate um, them into a quieter place or exercise them away. I have to purposely do a number of things to quell what can go on in my head and my body because of my thoughts. So I think that these things um, shift, and that a lot of us, without even realizing it, can shift into a mode of negative thinking, and not negative in a negative way, but simply thinking in a way that doesn't serve us best. So, common releasing practices again would be deep breathing, journaling, expressive writing, talking with a trusted friend or a therapist, practicing forgiveness of ourself and others, mindfulness and awareness, observing our thoughts without judgment. In other words, healing practices that we hear again and again can be the better response to these stress-inducing patterns that a lot of us can fall into. Um, there is something that I learned from Dr. Huberman, and any of you that listen to him when he does his Huberman podcast will have heard this because he talks about it a lot as the most studied and acknowledged quick fix to internal tension, and that's the physiological sigh. You've heard me talk about it possibly, but I thought this would be a good time to interject that, and perhaps you can do it with me. It's quick, it takes seconds, and it's a deep inhalation topped off with just a cap of whatever we have left to inhale into our lungs, and then a quick release. It's a what that does, that second inhalation helps open up the alveoli, the little sacs that are in our lungs, and help then displace and wash out the carbon dioxide that's there. And, or carbon monoxide, carbon dioxide. Oh, Nan. um, would it be carbon monoxide? Hmm. Anyway, I believe it's carbon dioxide because we have oxygen and carbon dioxide. And when we do shallow breathing in the middle of the night, and by the way, the physiological sigh is what happens automatically sometimes with some people throughout the night. When we're shallow breathing, we'll catch ourselves doing that. When we cry, but we can exaggerate it and get a better and a stronger response. Do this once, maybe twice, maybe three times, but he said that usually once or twice will calm our nervous system down and it replenishes our oxygen stores because, again, shallow breathing caused by tension will again skew the balance. So, physiological sigh. So, releasing is about awareness and choice. You can't release what you haven't noticed. So, what about replacing? This is the intentional adoption of positive habits, thoughts, and behaviors that support resilience and well being. For example, replacing negative self-talk with affirmative and self or affirmations and self-compassion. I found that this was a huge one for me, huge. And this was one of the things I got a lot of help from Dr. Goldner with. And that was because I have some, what do they call it? Oh, neurodivergent traits, ADHD, dyslexia. Um, there are a lot of things I can't do well or right. And I went through quite a long period of constant self-evaluation, catching myself doing what somebody who is really good at what I can't do does, and putting myself down. And it was overwhelming me. It was causing even physiological almost pain. The tension all over was becoming really difficult. And she walked me through a lot of this. So think of yourself. Think of your own self-talk. Think of your self-evaluation, replacing negative self-talk with affirmations and self-comparison. Now, when I catch myself doing something very ADHD, when I can't do any number of things in my head, um, with the dyslexia, um, getting things wrong all the time. As a matter of fact, something happened the other day, and I had said something, and somebody said, corrected me. And I impatiently said, it was in my head, it came out of my mouth. That's what happens to me. And I said it in a very matter of fact rather than um, self, oh, dismissive way. Okay. So replacing, I'll repeat it, negative self-talk with affirmations and self-compassion, swapping screen time for nature walks or creative hobbies. We as a society are pulled into certain habits because of media and because that's where the money is. For example, the foods we eat, we're pulled into some of the worst eating habits in the world because the money is there and the ads are there and the food is there and what they do to it that makes it impossible not to eat if you start. Is there, but also what we watch. It's a national habit to watch one series after another, or to be reminded constantly of what we're missing if we don't. Well, we sit in front of screens way too long, and even what we're doing right now, um, doing too much of that is a very bad idea. I will remind you of what Ruth Heydrich, who has won, 68 marathons in her age group, and she is now, I believe, 90 something. She's a runner, triathlete, etc. She was being interviewed, and she had a watch that every 20 minutes, annoyingly, probably to the interviewer, set out a signal. And she said, that's how I remind myself that no matter what, if I'm sitting, I'm going to stand up. Um, I've mentioned this before, and I think it's a great idea. Replacing perfectionism with a growth mindset. Uh, I now tell myself that my oddness, my inability to do some things that other people would do far better, is my superpower. That with the way that my brain works, I can do things that other people couldn't because I've learned to adapt. like the people who can't see can hear far better. Well, I can do a lot of things that I can do on a dime because I've had to adapt because long the long game doesn't work for me very well. And replacing chronic busyness with scheduled downtime and mindfulness is another way of creating positive habits that we can intentionally adopt. Replacing is about building a bridge from reaction to intention. Why are both of these important? You can't just remove stress without filling that void. Otherwise, unhealthy patterns can creep in. Releasing space or releasing clear space and replacing fills that space with healing and empowering alternatives. So let's apply this. There's so much more to say about all of this, so many examples, so much training, but that's not what we're doing today. I'm introducing a subject, introducing a reality that you can decide to work with. The releasing and replacing two-part strategy of improving emotional and mental well-being can become something that now you put some time and attention to. So let's try this. What is one thing that you've had lately that's not serving you well? One thought you've had lately that's not serving you well. Maybe one thing you ruminate on, maybe one criticism of yourself, maybe one attraction to something that's not good for you that you've been holding on to. Something your future self might thank you for choosing instead. So, what is one thought that you've had lately that's not serving you? And then, what's something that your future self might thank you for choosing instead? Take just a minute and think that through. Something not serving you, and something that you can choose instead. I did this at a workshop a while ago at a senior center, and one of the participants said that she wanted to release self-comparison. And this is something we all tend to do as we look at others who can do so much better at one thing or another than we can. And she wanted to replace it with affirmations that she could write in her daily planner. I did this today. I did that today. I knocked this one out of the park. I just said to my husband on our walk last night, we walk every evening for a half an hour. I said, today I was able to do some moves with a 15-pound weight for the first time because I have weights in our workout room and I work to a app, HasFit, HASFIT, and the trainer, Coach Kosak, and his wife, who works alongside him, showing lighter moves, say, choose the weight that you can control, that you can work this through, that gets hard near the end, but that you can still do. And I haven't picked up a 15-pound for certain moves because it was just too heavy. And I could do it. And I did it. I surprised myself and I did it, well, rather easily. So now I have to get some larger and larger weights. And I felt good about that. So note somewhere affirmations that remind you of what you do well. Are you ready to take this on as an experiment? I'm going to give you an assignment, and you can come back to this video and leave it as a comment. Try this practice for 7 days and see what shifts. Every day, look at what you may want to release and what you may want to replace it with. This isn't about perfection. It's about creating space for better choices. Before you go, let's take a deep breath and imagine letting go of one burden. And then we'll exhale and picture something peaceful and powerful replacing it. Are you ready? I have a quote for you from Joseph Campbell, a writer, a mythologist, the author of The Hero's Journey. And he wrote, "You have to let go of the life you've planned to embrace, or the life you've planned to embrace the one that's waiting for you. You have to let go of the life you've planned to embrace the one that's waiting for you." So I wish you a good journey. I thank you for joining me. As an introduction, again, I am Nan Simonsen, nationally board certified health and wellness coach. And this started, I'll say, all of this for me 6 months before turning 70. That was 4 years ago. I wrote this book. I began in July of 2020. That was COVID. That was when all heck broke loose. And it was finished by July 27th. It was published as a birthday present to myself because on January 9th I was turning 70. And this was my acknowledgement that 70 wasn't old, that aging with power was in the grasp of anyone who wanted to grab it. I had been 2 years as a health coach with a lifestyle medical practice. So all these people get well when they changed their lifestyle, which meant their diet, and we espouse a whole food, plant forward or plant based diet, their movement, their community involvement, their sleep and stress management. When people got all of that together, they extended their lifespan, and they can extend their lifespan by 7 to 10 years by simply changing their lifestyle. So that's who I am. The mission in this book is stated that for the next 10, 20, 30 years, boom, boom, um, that's what I'll do. I'll continue to spread the word. And I'm done. I hope you enjoyed this. Give me a thumbs up and please subscribe. It helps get the word out. And have a great day because I know I'm going to. Thank you. Bye bye.